No water in Cape Town. One of the biggest cities in South Africa may soon be the first major city in the world to run out of water. Cape Town is facing a water crisis and has less than 100 days before day zero on April 21st, when the water supply is expected to run out. Years of extreme drought have caused storage levels in dams to drop below 30%. Once it falls to 13.5%, taps in the city will be shut off. Local authorities restricted water usage to 87 liters per person per day, but after only 39% of residents complied, the limit has now been lowered to 50 liters. Its 4 million residents are being told to take 2-minute showers and have been banned from filling pools, watering gardens, or washing cars. Households that go over their water allowance will also be asked to pay higher tariffs. After day zero, citizens will need to line up at one of 200 water collection points throughout the city, where each can collect a maximum of 25 liters a day. Authorities have also been looking into alternative ways to source water, like wastewater recycling, drilling into aquifers, or seawater desalination. Uh-oh, H2O. The United Arab Emirates wants to build a mountain to solve a drought because why not? If there's one country that likes to think big, it's the United Arab Emirates. When faced with a water shortage, the country is ditching the boring option to conserve and instead has opted to build a huge mountain for more rainfall. Compared to the international average of 170 to 300 liters, an average United Arab Emirates resident uses 550 liters of water daily. This is especially problematic as water in the region is in very short supply due to the arid climate and naturally low rates of precipitation. The government has already turned to artificial methods. $558,000 were spent on cloud seeding in 2015. Now $400,000 is going towards funding a development plan for man-made mountains. Mountains force air to rise up into the atmosphere. There, air cools and become clouds that can then be seeded for rain. The cloud seeding can have undesirable outcomes such as too much rainfall or none at all. Due to the rain shadow effect, an artificial mountain can inhibit rainfall on one side, causing that area to become more parched. Experts from the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research in the U.S. are in the early stages of the project. A modeling study is being carried out to determine the location, height, and width of the mountain.
There's plastic in your water. A new study shows plastic has not only been polluting the seas and oceans, but also most of the world's tap water. Scientists tested water samples from a dozen countries on 5 different continents and found that 83% contained microscopic plastic fibers. The US had the highest contamination rate at 94%, while Europe fared better at 72%. The microscopic fragments are believed to be from clothes, plastic waste, tire dust, microbeads, and paint that have been flushed into water systems. Synthetic fibers shed from clothes and carpets have also been known to contaminate the air and eventually make it into waterways. Microplastics have been known to contain toxic chemicals, which could be released into the body when ingested. Many studies have explored the impact of microscopic plastic particles on marine life, but none so far focused directly on human health. With the current state of Earth's plastic pollution, though, somebody had better get on it. 15 million Americans are drinking contaminated water. Drinking water is one of the most precious resources on the planet, but that same H2O that keeps billions alive may be hampering the health of millions of Americans. New research suggests that 47 locations in 27 states contain drinking water that has been affected by toxic perfluorochemicals, or PFCs. These locations include 20 industrial installations, 21 military bases, and 7 firefighting sites. Some include multiple contamination sources. PFCs are highly fluorinated toxic chemicals linked to major health problems. The research focused on the spread of 2 types of PFCs, perfluorooctanoic acid and perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. Due to their non-stick properties, these types of PFCs are found in everyday items, such as frying pans, waterproof jackets, and even carpet stain protection. PFCs are linked to a variety of ailments, including thyroid disease, kidney cancer, and testicular cancer. They've also been shown to weaken some childhood immunizations. If you'd like to know more, you can visit www.ewg.org for a map of the impacted areas. Study shows severe drought may be behind Mideast crisis. Much of the Middle East is in turmoil as the relentless civil war in Syria rages on and millions of Syrians continue to flee their country. Many others from North Africa and the Middle East are also seeking refuge from the conflict and instability in their own homelands. A recent study published in the Journal of Geophysical Research has attributed the conflict, at least in part, to a series of droughts caused by man-made climate change. The current mega drought in the Levant region, which includes Cyprus, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey, began in 1998. To map out droughts over time, researchers examined tree rings from both live and dead trees. The scientists studied tree samples from countries bordering the Mediterranean. Tree rings are like an ecological footprint. Thin rings mean a tree lived through a period of drought. The thinner the ring, the longer the drought. From the data gathered, scientists were able to form an idea of drought patterns in the region in recent years compared to historical records. In their study, they discovered that the current drought in the Levant is 10 to 20% drier than the worst drought of the past 900 years. The drought has contributed to food insecurities and poverty in the region and led to a mass exodus of refugees out of the Middle East and into Europe. The cause of the drought is likely anthropogenic, as scientists discovered anomalies in the current tree ring data well outside the bounds of natural variation. Human conflict and environmental problems are often intertwined. Studies have shown that before the start of the Syrian uprising in 2011, the country had experienced one of the most severe droughts in recorded history.
Asia's glaciers are shrinking. With Asian glaciers facing a massive melt by the end of the century, millions of people are at risk of water shortages, and it's all thanks to global warming. The high mountains of Asia lie in a region surrounding the Tibetan Plateau and contains the largest store of permanent ice outside the North and South Poles. Meltwater feeds into major rivers like the Indus, Yangtze, and Mekong, and are used for drinking, hydroelectric power, and irrigation. Scientists predict that Asian high mountain glaciers will lose a third of their mass by 2100 if the global temperature rises 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. If temperatures increase 3.5, 4, or 6 degrees, losses could reach 49, 51, and 65% respectively. Glacial loss could affect the region's water supply and lead to shortages. At the same time, accelerated melting could trigger intense flooding, especially when combined with climate change-induced heavy rains and super typhoons. High warming scenarios carry worse consequences, including massive sea level rise, floods, droughts, loss of species, and even disease. The only way to avoid such a dismal future is by minimizing global temperature rise. And for that, we need to double, even triple efforts to combat climate change.